Good evening, guys. We are live. Try to think what night it is. Seems like we've been doing this for so long now. Yeah, so it's Tuesday night, and we're here for the last live show of the season. It's going to be a Scott Brown farewell show, as you can see from the banner there. Obviously, we want to thank Club Badge FC. They've been with us kind of from the start, almost, and we'll be hoping to strike up a good relationship with them next season. Where over the summer I'm going to be working hard on the podcast, and hopefully we can get Paul on. Next season if he's up for it. So Paul, how you doing, mate? Long time no see.
No, good to be back and get a chance to talk about football and Bruni especially, like you said. So glad to be on. Thanks, guys.
Yeah, so as I say, we are here to talk about Scott Brown. 14 years in the hoops, 611 games. So I mean, just before we kind of get into the statistics side of things, Paul, obviously there was rumours of him signing for Rangers before he came to us. I mean, you know, it's all ifs, buts and maybes, but can you imagine had he been wearing light blue for the last 14 years?
I really couldn't. I remember back when that was about, and I remember the whole Clyde 1 scenario. You know, they were like, yeah, he's gone, he's signing, you know, that's it. And then it turns out he's at Celtic Park. So, but, you know, I could never see that now. It's been too long. Maybe at the beginning you probably thought it was close, you know, but you know, I think he made the right choice, and you know, he's made himself a legend at the club and Scottish football as well. So.
Yeah, I mean, I remember I think it was Derek Johnson that famously said he would quit his job if Scott Brown didn't sign for Celtic, didn't sign for Rangers rather, and he was so, I don't know who his source was. He obviously let him down massively because Scott Brown, obviously, we know he went down to London to speak to Dermot Desmond and Peter Lawwell, and the rest, as they say, is history. So, listen, guys, we want to get your interaction tonight. We want your memories of Scott Brown. We're going to do a top 5 games, a top 5 goals, and a top 5 Bruni moments. So, get in touch. As I say, we want to know anything about Bruni you want to talk about. Get the comments in, and me and Paul will rattle through them. So, as I say, it came to Celtic 2007. I think it was 29th of May 2007. £4.5 million. Now, I'll be honest, I didn't think it was worth £4.5 million at the time, and I was very, very surprised that we paid that much for him at the time. But obviously, listen, I don't mind eating humble pie. He's an absolute club legend in my opinion, and I'm quite happy to be proved wrong. Did you think at the time, Paul, that it was going to be as good as he has been?
No, when back then when I seen that price tag, and you know, I knew of him from Hibs, and I knew what kind of player he was. So I knew he was decent, but then I see £4.5 million. I'm thinking, I think they're taking a chance there. That was my honest opinion back then. But no, I'm glad to. I'm not glad to be sitting here saying goodbye, but I'm glad to have the last, 14 years or whatever it is, and have him captain the team for the majority of that. So it's been brilliant. So, but at the time I was doubtful. Yeah, absolutely. But no looking back now, absolute legend.
I think anybody looking back now, 14 years is incredible. I can remember saying that when he quit, he played his last game. I said that there wouldn't be another player like him in Scottish football. Certainly, that a player that's going to stay at a club for that length of time. That you don't get longevity with players, unfortunately, anymore. I know Harry Kane's obviously been with Spurs for over a decade, but obviously he's looking for pastures new as well. So you just don't get players that are going to stay at a club for that long. And the fact that he's stuck with us, and I know there was talk of him being a Rangers fan as a kid, and the pictures have obviously emanated at the time, but you just can't imagine him with any other strip on. And it's going to be so strange, I think, to see him with an Aberdeen top next season. And you just know, when the fixtures come out in the next couple of weeks, that it's going to be Aberdeen Celtic first game at Pittodrie. It's written in the stars.
Definitely.
So James McMillan says my favourite goal for Bruni was the goal against Rangers. I think that's going to be a lot of people's favourite goal. To be honest, of course, it was a birthmark of the birth of the Bruni celebration. When I was looking at his stats, Paul, I actually thought he played. I mean, I know he played an enormous amount of games. I think it was 611 games. I said that. I always thought that he played loads of games earlier on in his career rather than later. But as I'm looking at it, probably the last 5 years that he's played, nearly 300 games for us. So, I mean, that's incredible to think he's played that many games. And then probably as you go towards the start of his career, it was more playing 30, 39, 40 games kind of thing for us.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's probably due to his own determination, So, I think there was a time, it was maybe a couple of years ago, that people were doubting him, saying, that's him, his legs are gone, he's finished. But, I've watched a couple of things recently with Scott Brown talking about that and how Brendan Rodgers, brought the extra drives to go and prove people wrong and show that he's still got it. And that's what he done. So I think when you see the games and the amount of games in the last kind of 5 years, I think that had a lot to do with it as well. Just that drive to, to continue and set the standard in training, in the matches, So, and I think that's been an integral part of Celtic's success as well.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, a lot of fans doubted whether he could do it over the last couple of seasons, and I was kind of on the fence with it, to be honest, as well, because there was at times when it looked as if, certainly his injuries and the length of time that he's been out, I think probably mid kind of decade, he wasn't playing a lot of games for us. I think over the season, I think he was playing the likes of 32 games, 33 games, 36 games, but then, he goes on to like half a century of games in a season. So, when you look at the strength, the determination the guy's got, he must have been so amazing to have in that dressing room. And also, we were talking off air how many goals he scored. I think it was 45, 46 goals he scored for Celtic, and I don't know how many assists, but he never ever struck me as a goal scorer that scored loads of goals, but over the piece, he's kind of scored a fair amount of goals a season kind of thing.
No, absolutely. He's not, obviously you can see his record, he's not a goal scorer. I used to get nervous when I seen him hit a shot, I'll be honest, sometimes, but he's scored a few crackers and a few very important goals. I remember the one against Hamilton that saved the game, at Parkhead. Yeah. Absolutely the last dying minute, and he stepped up, had that drive, and although it wasn't one of these 40-yarders, but technically it was really good. It was drive forward and hit across the goal, and the celebration after it, you could see how much that meant, and that was a big goal at that time. He has scored some nice finishes, like the one where the Bruni came from and Wilson managed to get it back to him and he's chipped it in the far corner. Just absolute class goal. And I think there was it St Johnson, absolute screamer.
Oh, aye, right in the top
30 bin. Yards, right in the top bin. But I generally did sometimes get really nervous when he was looking like he was teeing up for a shot. But he has scored some very important goals and a couple of crackers in there as well. So,
I mean, some cracking goals, as you say, and obviously that one. You mentioned the birth of the Bruni, and obviously the Hamilton game. I think, if I'm right in thinking, Rangers lost to Kilmarnock that night.
Yeah.
As well at Rugby Park. So that was an incredible game, and it's a kind of moments that helps you win league titles. It's easy to look at the games that finished when you beat teams 4 and 5-0, but when you get the last minute winners against teams that you might think that you're going to beat 4-5-0, like Hamilton at Celtic Park, who we've dished it a few downs to, that's the kind of games that you look at and you go, it's the ones you remember basically. 2016-17, I think, was probably his most prolific moment especially in the Champions League. I think he had the most interceptions out of any player in that season. I think it was 30 interceptions. He was ahead of players like Casemiro, Diego Godin, and Nicolas Otamendi. I mean, good company to be keeping, I suppose.
No, definitely, and people always talk about Scott Brown. Could he ever done it in like the English Premiership or in a bigger league? And they look at Scotland. So it was good to see when he was playing in Europe. He was holding his own against some of the best midfielders in Europe. So that was really pleasing to see, and at that point that he can do it. So because he was competing in Europe, and nobody can say that it's the Scottish League or whatever. You couldn't do that in England, but he was in Europe against some of the best players, and he performed really well. So it was good to see that at that point. I remember that thinking, he's justified himself in there, along with others.
Yeah, I mean, he'll go down as one of the best captains. And George Wilson says, remember the day well when Bruni was born right in front of Juice's face. I mean, listen, we all have players that we don't like, and I hate using the word hate in football, but my God, El Hadj Diouf was really one of the kind of guys that really got up your nose, a bit like Neymar. And so, I mean, that was obviously so satisfying when he scored that goal. And it's a very unlike Scott Brown goal. I mean, I suppose when Scott Brown does score, he doesn't really score kind of that many scuffed efforts. Most of them are absolute crackers in the top bin. James McMullen says he's my favourite captain after Billy McNeill, and obviously should mention Billy McNeill today and of all days, the 54th anniversary of the Lisbon Lions when we became the first British club to win the European Cup. I've got my Celtic top on, my 67 top on. George Wilson says McGregor's got big boots to fill. Well, I mean, that's basing it on who we think is going to take over. I mean, Callum McGregor seems the kind of suited choice, but we've obviously spoken it, and I mean, I don't know if was it yourself that said you fancied Ayer more as captain, or do you think McGregor will get it?
I just when you're looking at Scott Brown, he spoke about what the standards. He always wanted to have the highest standard, and he would go to that for others to follow. And he has that fire in his belly, and sometimes I don't see that for Callum McGregor. And he's a different kind of player and personality. I get that, but sometimes I see it from Ayer. Just that fire and the aggression, and I think that's what we need. Not necessarily that he'll be captain, but I think he'd be a good shout. But depends on the manager. The manager might want to bring in somebody who will be captain, or he might stick with Cal, who's done a fantastic job, and like many others, hasn't had the best of seasons, but we know what he can do. But we don't see what's in behind the scenes, and what he can do, and so he is a natural one to step in and do it, and maybe that will happen. But whether it will stay like that, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think I totally agree with you in the sense that he's no got that kind of fire. It doesn't look like he's got that fire in his belly when he's on the park. He's very kind of shy, much like James Forrest is. You don't really see a lot of kind of passion out of him. So whether it's down to Brown kind of advising the club that they should go down the route of making Callum captain, or whether they might use the captain's armband as kind of bait. I would hope to lure Christopher Ayer into a new contract. But as I say, we'll just need to see. Michael says last minute goal via the Aki's goal was good, but the celebration was unreal. Gave a boost to the team when we were in a slump. Absolutely. I mean, I've been there before at Celtic Park when you get the horrible games that you're at, and you just think you're going to and you get the people that leave early, and then you get the people that say, no, wait one more chance. And fortunately, that goal went in, and it done us the world of good. James McMullen says we need to get the management sorted. I don't know how long it is since you've been on the show, Paul, but we've still not got a manager.
Yeah.
I genuinely thought Eddie Howe would have been announced by now, but we're hearing it's going to be the end of the week. Who knows?
I might have heard by the time Celtic have managers, so who knows? It's just an ongoing kind of I'm sure there's reasons for it. I would think. I think with Bournemouth losing the playoffs, I think that's obviously, if it is going to be Howe, which most people think it is, and I think it is, and I think he'll be taking some of the staff from Bournemouth. So, and I think that's what's caused the delay. And I'm hoping it's going to be soon, like literally qualifiers round the corner, and there's a massive rebuilding job to go. Potentially, if a lot of the players go, which we do think, a fair few will go.
Yeah, well. I mean, obviously, yeah, I mean, we have got a fair few that's going to need to go. Obviously, loan players, and then players coming to the end of their contract. And I mean, I put on the page last night that Lee Griffiths was on FaceTime to James McPake last night after Dundee secured promotion to the Premiership. I mean, Lee Griffiths has been there, done it, got the T-shirt. I mean, he could end up trying to help his old pal out at Dundee. I mean, I think he might go to Aberdeen. Hopefully, Eddie Howe can talk him round and we can get another season or two at him. But just going back to the Scott Brown thing, I mean, a horrible season for him to end 14 years as a Celtic legend. Do you know what I mean? I would have loved him just to have even won the Scottish Cup. He deserved so much better than he got this season, and unbelievably the first trophy of the season in over a decade, since I think 2009, 2010. So, he's won an absolute gluttony of trophies. But do you think, I mean, we know now that he made the decision early on, but he didn't tell anybody straight away. I mean, I've got the opinion of, had he kind of came out publicly and said to people that this was going to be his last season, do you think the team might have gave more, or do you think it was just always destined to be one of these seasons?
I think the team probably knew anyway. Because I believe, I think they knew in time enough to change the way they were playing and their performances to try and give him a good finish. I think they had plenty of notice for that. Not that they say that he decided that at the beginning of the season, but I believe he didn't want to work under a new manager. I think that was his reason for not staying at Celtic, rather, because I think, Celtic, I'd be upset if they didn't actually, ask him the question, like, come here, take a player coach or whatever it may be. But I think that discussion's happened, and I think, he's when Lenny's left, I think it's confirmed it for me that he just didn't want to. I think that's what I read, or I was hearing about, that he just didn't want to work under a new manager, and he wanted to go. So disappointing way to end his Celtic career, but I'm sure he'll never be forgotten. Like I say, obviously Billy McNeill, fantastic, and I sometimes wonder if Bruni won the 10 in a row, what level would they take Bruni to as captain? Would it be a bigger achievement than the Lisbon Lions, or would it be on par, or would Billy McNeill still have the edge? So, it would have took him to another level, that's for sure, but maybe not quite that level. But so yeah, absolute legend, and it's a shame the season went the way it has. But he's been part of that as well, for whatever reason. It's went like that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we weren't around at the time at Billy McNeill and all the rest of it, but in my opinion, he's the greatest Celtic captain I've ever seen, certainly. But I mean, as I say, listen, he's. I think it was heartbreaking when you seen the images of him at an empty Celtic Park in his final game, and an empty Easter Road, even more emotionally probably for him. I didn't see the Celtic Hibs game, and I didn't see the highlights of it. But I don't know if he cried. I don't think he cried. I think it was maybe getting emotional in his interviews. But typical Bruni, a wee dig at Rangers again before he leaves. About how we're the proper invincibles, and how they wish they were still in his shoes, kind of thing. Do you know what I mean? So. It's great to see him kind of leave like that, in terms of he's saying, right, listen, it's not been a great season, but I mean, God sake, a quadruple treble, it'll never be seen I don't think, never mind Scottish football, world football, nobody will ever achieve that. You had so many games in those 4 seasons under Rodgers and Lennon. I mean, is there a game that kind of sticks out in your mind that, in the 4 years especially, do you think there's a game that maybe stick out and think he had an absolute belter of a game there?
Always one that sticks out, and I don't tend to think that maybe he had just an amazing game, but it was the old sunglasses at Ibrox celebration,
Aye.
That red card, and and sometimes I look at Celtic this season and I see that passion and the fire there, and I'm like, that's what we've missed, and I just remember the goal, and then Bruni's celebration, the fans all jumping in, and it's that just came to my head because fans have not been able to get into stadiums and stuff, and I could see how much that meant to him at the time, and he took the red card like a champ, and that was a good game as well, and one that kind of sticks out for me, probably more likely for the celebration and the red card and everything that went with that.
Aye, for me, I'd probably be looking early on in the quadruple treble years. I think the Man City game in the Champions League was absolutely incredible. It is one of the best Champions League games I've seen ever. I think he had the most interceptions. I think his pass completion rate was through the roof, and it was just an amazing game to be involved in. The fact that I think Dembele scored early for us. They equalised. I don't know if it was Sterling that equalised, and then Tierney takes the lead. They get back level, and then we take the lead straight away again, and you're kind of holding on to a free each end. But it was an incredible game, and that's kind of one of the games that always sticks out for me. That just how amazing he was in it. The other game would probably be the recent Scottish Cup final against Hearts when we secured the quadruple treble. How people were saying, "Oh, you need to play Sorrow. Bruni's legs have gone. He's gone at the end of the season and X, Y, and Z." I just think what an incredible game, and the whole wind up during the game with him and Naismith, him and Halliday. He just loves getting in people's faces like that, especially because he's came under some heavy criticism and heavy tackling from opposing players, especially Hearts players like Naismith and Halliday, and I don't know. I take it they're pals off the park, and because there's been some nasty challenges against him for certain players in the Premiership, and he just seems to shrug it off as if to go, it's all right, it's what happens. But it's tackles that can ruin people's careers. I can remember one. I'm trying to think of the Ross County player that done him at Celtic Park. It was an
Kovacic or something.
Aye, Kovacic. Aye, absolute shocker. A challenging. I think the referees seem to let opposing players away with it because it's Scott Brown, as if almost as if he deserves it. He brings it on himself, do you know what I mean? But
Bruni was loving that tackle. He was like, "Come on!"
It was absolutely. I think that was the one he jumped up and he's in his face and he's laughing and smiling. I'm like, he's absolutely nuts. He's bonkers. Like,
I think that's his whole thing. I think that's why he gets fouled. He gets in some people's heads, and he does it very well. It's the same with the Aberdeen one, slid in 3 times and then gets scalped with the ball as well and gets up and swaggers away. Like, it's just mind games for him, and I think just incredible to be honest.
He's. I can remember one of the my Bruni moments that I wrote down earlier on was the game up at Aberdeen, up at Pittodrie, and I think about 3 players flew in and done him, and he bounced up and he's like he's walking about with the Conor McGregor stance, and you're just like, what the hell is wrong with you? Do you know what I mean? Like, it must just be like, but this is a player that Aberdeen is getting next season. Do you know what I mean? This is. I think, in my opinion, he'll play another season as a player, and then he'll go into the more coaching side of things. But I think Aberdeen fans that don't like him and don't want him there, whether it's a minority, I'm not sure. But I think after a few games, after 3 or 4 games, they will be loving him up there. Do you know what I mean? They'll probably not want him to leave in the end.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and there's only one other team that don't like Rangers as much as we do, so I'm sure he'll love it. He'll relish that. So
Oh, exactly. I mean, James McMillan says, I thought Bruni bossed the midfield against that Scottish Cup final, absolutely. And that header, who could forget that header for Lee Griffiths' goal in extra time? That was an incredible header. I actually think I think it was Halliday, he bossed off the ball. And when Griffiths sticks it in, he doesn't run away and celebrate. He actually screams in Halliday's face, you know what I mean? And just absolutely brilliant. But in terms of, we've gone into our top 5 goals. Obviously, everybody's favourite. Everybody's going to go for this one. It was the Rangers one, as you say. Mark Wilson. I think it was. I'm right in saying Izagiri down the wing, whips the ball in, and
Mark Wilson brings it down and kind of turns it around. Yeah,
he cuts the ball back.
Yeah.
And what a finish! Just to take it out from under his feet, curls it into the bottom corner, and I don't think it was meant to be Juve. I don't think that was ever meant to be. I think it was just he turns around and he's there.
He's there.
And he just stretches his arms out, and it's just we've been doing it ever since. But that was, when you look at that game and how it went, obviously 2 each. Am I right in saying Fraser Forster gets sent off for a Naismith? Naismith went to go down him. I'm not sure if it's Forster in goal at the time, but I think it was Forster, and he gets sent off. Naismith goes round him, goes down. Rangers get a penalty. I think Zaluska came in goals for us. I could be wrong. Could be totally wrong. But I'm sure Zaluska came in goals and obviously had to play the second leg at Celtic Park. But I'm sure that was. If any guys want to correct me on that, I don't know. But that was an amazing game. Is there any goals that you can remember that stick out for you, that maybe important goals or maybe just belters in the top bin?
I think I said it earlier, the one against St Johnstone. It was a good distance. I mean, just smacked it right in the top corner. Just typical kind of Bruni goal. When he scores, he tends to kind of volley it, and I think he caught it in a half volley, and it just flew straight in the top corner. It was always remember that. It was an absolute cracker of a goal. And hard to think. I think I mentioned it earlier. The Hamilton one was massive at that point as well. So,
aye, definitely. And I've got the Hamilton one marked down. For me, the Hapoel Beersheva, I was watching the highlights earlier on, and that game for me probably sticks out as well in terms of what it meant. I know it was the first leg, and me and Michael that run the page, we were at it, and I remember it was just one of these summer nights. It was just, everything felt right about it, and we got into the ground and we get the early goal through Tom Rogic, and then I think, did Griffiths get a double?
Yep.
I think he scored the header. Mm-hmm. I think he scored the header, and then an absolute peach of free kick. We're 3-0 up by half time. You're thinking party's over, we're in the Champions League, and then we came out and lose 2 stupid goals. But it was Bruni's, obviously. Bruni scored the 5th. It was Beaton with the 4th and Bruni with the 5th. I think he hit his first shot. I don't know I think it was going into Rose Ed, if I'm right in thinking. I think he volleyed it and it was going into Rose Ed. It fell him again, and he absolutely smashed it in the top bin. And again, mad celebration. I think he ran and landed in his backside, and everybody's on top of him, and place was chaos. It was just, that for me was an unbelievable game.
Yeah, I think I watched something with Scott Brown the other day, an interview, and his favourite game was Karagandhi. I don't know if you remember that. It was at Forest last minute goal to go through. Was it that one? I don't know. That was his favourite game that he played out of every game, just because of the atmosphere, the last minute and qualifying, and
that was a James Forrest goal.
James Forrest, and everybody just ran to the corner. Yeah.
Even Neil Lennon turned into Usain Bolt that night. That's one of my favourites all-time European games as well. But I mean, for me, another one. This is going back a wee while. Actually, we beat Hearts 4-0 at Tynecastle. first minute or something, I think Hearts had a goal. Well, I wouldn't say a goal disallowed, but it was a goal line clearance. I don't know if the ball was over the line. Tynecastle, as you know, is an absolute bear pit sometimes shooting, and it's great that they're back next year, because that's the kind of games that you look forward to in the calendar, and that's the kind of grounds you want to go to, because you want to get the atmosphere. But yeah, so Hearts had the goal line clearance. We run at the park. Brun plays it to James Forrest out wide, who whips it in, and it kind of bounces off of Georgios Samaras, and Bruni hits it in the first time volley right in the bottom corner and runs to the Hearts end and just gives it to Bruni, and the place is booing, and they're throwing things at him, and I just love that. That's Scott Brown in a nutshell. Kilmarnock game, who could forget? At Rugby Park, Scott Brown won the league at Rugby Park. Corner, 89 minutes. Boyata headed down, and Bruni lashed it again. I think it's probably gone into the fans behind the goal, and it somehow takes deflections and bobbles and bounces in. And then Ollie Burke pushes him into the crowd, and Sinclair's jumping over, and the fans are on the park, and it's unbelievable. That's the games we were talking about earlier on. That's the games that you remember when you win the last minute games. But yeah, so for me that was like my top 5 goals in terms of games. Obviously, we've mentioned a few games already, like Beersheva. What about the Rangers one? I've marked down the Rangers one, the Joey Barton game. I mean, what was your memories of that day leading into the game, kind of thing?
The Joey Barton. No, I was thinking about that one. I was thinking, do you remember Brown got fouled on the right and kind of chipped it all the way up to Dembele? And I know that's probably not the same game, but that's what I was just thinking about there. So
was that the 3-2 game?
Yes.
What's the goal again, Tom?
Yes, exactly.
That's
chipped it over Dembele, and Brown took out the game. He's just absolutely fouled.
I can't remember who it was. Was it Halliday? I
think so. But anyway, you were saying about the Joey Barton.
Brendan Rodgers' first game.
Yeah. He loved that battle, apparently, Scott Brown said, because he sent him packing pretty much, so because Joey Barton had a lot to say about Scott Brown, and there was that bit of tension there. So I remember the build up to that game. It was a lot about those two, playing. He sent him packing anyway. So it was
men against boys, really. I think that was his comment after the game, and I can remember I was down in London watching it. It was at a concert, and on the Saturday night, and I can remember watching it in a hotel bar, and I was just like, we'd went out on the Friday and got a wee bit worse for wear, so we were going to go out to a Celtic bar. I'm sure it was Sheephaven Bay, ending in London. We were going to go out to it, and just end up like, I'll just watch it in the hotel bar, and we'll go after it, and unbelievable. I still remember the handshake. Barton couldn't look at him. Just absolutely bottled it. George Wilson says he's still in Bruni's back pocket. Absolutely. Joey Barton is a mouthpiece. He likes to. His mouth's bigger than his brain. Sometimes, and he loves kind of talking people down and talking certain leagues down, especially Scottish football. He came up here and absolutely, I can remember he got nutmegged in his first game at Ibrox against, I think it was a Hamilton player, I think it was Ali Crawford, and nutmegged him in his first game, and so certainly he was sent with his tail between his legs. Another one early on that sticks out for me, we went to Tynecastle again, and we won 7-0 in the Scottish Cup. I think Bruni scored. I know he scored one late on. I'm not sure if he scored 2 that day. It was a lot of scorers that day, but absolutely trounced them at Tynecastle. And Bruni loves going. Him and Griff love going there. And hopefully we can keep a hold of Lee Griffiths for next season, because It's always good to have that wee bit of firepower when you go to these places like Tynecastle. But that was an unbelievable game. So many goal scorers. And as you say, if there's anybody you'd want to beat, barring Rangers, it's Hearts, and especially at Tynecastle. Do you know what I mean? So for me, that game sticks out. But the game I kind of want to touch on is the 3-3 game with Kelly at Rugby Park, 3-0 down at half time. Did you think Lennon was gone? Did you think the wheels had came off? And
yeah, I remember watching it, and I was like, I was thinking, oh, that'll be it. Lennon, he'll be off. But yeah, amazing. Like second half, I just couldn't believe it. There was just the reaction, and I was kind of thinking, where was that in the first half? But not overly, because I was just so happy of like how they came out, and that came from Lenny, from Brown on the field as well. Driving that. So yeah, I'm just that was a really crucial game for Lennon at that time, and I remember thinking, like, I can't believe this, 3-0 down, half time, and I was positive that was it. I was scared there was actually going to be more, because it was just a terrible first half, but showed resilience to come back into it and go on, and that Brownie was integral to that. So.
I mean, he did say later on in his career, Neil Lennon, that he went into the dressing room and he basically said to the players, if you want me here in the next couple of weeks, then go out and show me. And they did. They could have won the game. It was an unbelievable second half performance. I can remember Stokes was in fire. I think Mulgrew was throwing everything in front of him. But I mean, that was a game that really helped us push on and kind of win the league, I think, that year. As I say, like, try to count up how many leagues he's won. I think it's 10 league titles, 6 Scottish Cups and 6 League Cups.
Yeah.
So many Scotland caps as well. It's just a shame that he's no still playing for Scotland, that he's not going to be going to the Euros. Because I was thinking there's certain players that you would love to go there. You'd love players like Barry Ferguson and Scott Brown to be gone there with Scotland, because they're the kind of solid players that you need. They're the kind of hard men that you need in your team. And I would have loved Scott Brown to be involved with the Scotland team in some form, kind of hang obviously background staff or whatever. But listen, it's obviously working. Whatever Stevie Clark's doing, it's working. But he's obviously been signed up, Scott Brown, to ITV's coverage of the Euros. I've seen that. A lot of bites on the page. I put the post up yesterday, and there seems to be a lot of obsessed people that don't like Scott Brown for whatever reason. They've decided to log onto the page and hurl abuse at him. Most of them have been banned. But listen, any reaction, any interaction in the page is more than welcome. But I mean, obviously there's a line, and I think it's jealousy. Let's face it, I think it's jealousy that they've not had a player like Scott Brown in the last 14 years.
No, 100%. They certainly haven't, and they'll say they have in James Tavernier, but they don't. It's not even on the same level. Aye,
I think when you look at it as well, there's obviously, going back to like top 5 moments, the winning the Invincible treble, becoming an Invincible for the first time, winning the treble, his first treble as Celtic player, as Celtic captain. That was an unbelievable season when you look at it, and when you look at what Rodgers and Chris Davies and all the rest of it brought to the club, and that game against Aberdeen, I watched the highlights of it on Friday night and on the Scottish Cup Classics, and I forget how good a game it was, how even nervy a game it was, because we missed some chances that day. When you look at Sinclair, I think Paddy Roberts hit the post, and Tom Rogic missed a couple of chances, but you always remember the final whistle going, and I think the ball went out to play for a throw in, and Scott Brown went to retrieve it. The whistle goes in. I think he was next to Derek McInnes at the time, and he jumps about with Michael Lustig, going to him, going absolutely tonto right in front of Derek McInnes. And listen, it was I can remember feeling slightly sorry for Aberdeen after the game, because they put in an incredible fight in that final, and obviously, when they had chances to win the game themselves. But I think I think when you look at that team, that was a comment I made. Like, what a team that was! When you look at the players, the class that was through it.
Yeah, absolutely right, all the way through from back to front. Just class, absolutely. What a game that was, and couldn't go invincible. Is just it'll never. It probably won't be done again. Maybe it will, but maybe not to the standard that Celtic done it. So.
I mean, the when you look at it, the Tom Rogic goal for me was a bit of a blur, because I can remember the shouting, "Go on, Rogic, go on, Rogic," and then running in the kitchen and getting my dad, just jumping a bit mental, and that's the memories you want. That's the memories you wish you could go back to certain games. I wish you could go back to, the Scotland Serbia moment. I wish you could go back to the Celtic Aberdeen, the Celtic Hearts Cup finals, and all the rest of it. There's certain games you just wish you could go back, because you just remember them absolutely word for word, and what you done and where you were, and all the rest of it. But listen, let's get talking about Scott Brown. What's the future hold? Obviously, how do you see him doing at Aberdeen next season?
I think he'll do very well. Then Aberdeen's got quite a young midfield in there, so I think he'll definitely serve a purpose in there. And I agree with yourself. I think he'll do more playing than coaching, and certainly the first year, So, and I think for him and Ferguson working together in that midfield, it could be quite tasty, to be honest. Quite good, and it'd be strange seeing him in Aberdeen strip or playing against Celtic, because it's been so long. But I'm sure when he comes back to Celtic Park, he'll hope that the fans are there, so he can actually say a goodbye, in person.
I think that will be an emotional moment. I think the sooner we get fans back into the stadiums. I mean, we've seen it obviously so far with maximum crowds at the Crucible, massive crowds at the FA Cup final, and that's what we need to start going down. I know it's a bit tougher for us because Glasgow's still in level 3, and reportedly we're close to level 4 restrictions again, which will be an unbelievable downfall in terms of if we need to go back into level 4. But I mean, we're not able to get any fans into the ground as it is. I don't know how it's going to affect the Scotland game coming up at Hampden. But I mean, in terms of I think at 36, I think Scott Brown has got another year left in him. Certainly, I don't think he'll play all the games. I think he'll play probably a dozen games, I'd imagine, over the season for Aberdeen. Somebody asked me, I think the other night, do you see him becoming captain for next season? I don't see that, because I don't think that Stephen Glass would do that. I don't think Scott Brown would feel comfortable with coming in and taking the captain's armband off for somebody. I just think Scott Brown wants to go in, get settled as quickly as he can, and get playing and play the same kind of way for Aberdeen. And listen, hopefully it'd be great to see him go and win a trophy at Aberdeen. Whether that's the Scottish Cup or the League Cup, you'd love to see him do it, because, and as you say, I think that emotional moment, if we get fans into the stadium next season, especially at Celtic Park or Pittodrie, it'd be so great if we could get him back for a farewell game, almost, and give him the recognition and the support that he deserved, because, as I say, it was heartbreaking to see him in an empty stadium. He just didn't really know what to do. Typical Scott Brown, who could forget his sign-off with the scooter. I think that'll go down as typical Scott Brown. It's just the look in his face when they realise he's live and he tries to pretend that he's not
tries
saying
to kid on it, didn't happen.
it's like, nah, it didn't happen, it's fine. And he tries to go back to normal and it's like, it's a good game, blah, blah. But listen, I mean, do you see him back
Sorry, you gets some sort of testimonial type game, he can come back and, maybe something like that. I think that's what you're saying.
I mean, I don't know if you were there at his kind of testimonial game the first time round against Republic Island. I think it was the day after the Hearts game when we won 2-1 to win the treble. But in terms of, for me, that was really, really disappointing in terms of what they could have done for him. Because at the time, obviously, it was very strange and very surreal, and it's probably because 60,000 people had severe hangovers. But it's kind of like nobody was really upset, because I think we were mostly upset because it was Paddy Roberts' last game at Celtic, and we kind of left in tears. And for a young boy that hadn't been at the club for so long, it was great to see the emotion kind of thing showing him. But in terms of Bruni, it just felt like nothing had Scott Brown's mark about that game. I don't think that we should have had a Republic Island team playing as that day. I think that was set up because obviously all the Irish fans were over for the cup final. I think that was maybe linked in with it somehow. I would have liked to have seen Scott Brown pick his own team to play, whether that had been a Hibs select or somebody that just likes to play, I don't know. But it just felt very, very strange because nobody was emotional, nobody was upset, because we knew he wasn't going anywhere. And I think it'd be different if we managed to get a farewell game from this time, because I think a lot of people would be upset then, and a lot of people would get emotional kind of thing, and probably Scott Brown would get emotional, I'd imagine, as well. But do you see him coming back to Celtic in the future?
Potentially, yeah. Maybe obviously not in a playing role, but I think he would be. Yeah, I think just the kind of person he is, and he knows the club inside out, and I think sometimes going back to Celtic hasn't worked for certain people, and but I don't think Scott Brown's one of those people. I think he would make it work, and people would work under him. And he would, I'm sure he would be a good coach under somebody else as well. So, yeah, I think he will be eventually at some point. Yeah,
I mean, I don't see a 45-year-old Scott Brown coming back in like 10 years' time. He play, but obviously you'd love to see him coming back as a coach. I think, obviously, if he cuts his teeth with Aberdeen and maybe even goes on somewhere else after that and then comes back to Celtic, I think it'd be great to see him back as whether it's a youth coach, whether it's assistant manager, or some sort of first team coach. I think he deserves to be back at Celtic Park in the future as a coach. And listen, we wish him all the best. As I say, thanks for joining us tonight, Paul. I know obviously you've been busy with work, mate, in your new business. But as I say, thanks for coming on and doing this. And for the season, in terms of it feels like it's been a long kind of season. We've been doing the podcast. We've only been doing it, I think this is the 11th episode. But in terms of, as I say, guys, we're going to work hard over the summer. We're going to come back bigger and better. Hopefully, with your support, we're going to get everything. We're going to get everything sorted over the summer. Sponsorships and big guests on, big interviews. I think Paul's going to try his hand at doing the Piers Morgan bit during the week. And as I say, happy to do that, and let's build this. Let's get this into charts. Let's get up there with the likes of Celtic State of Mind and Open Goal and 20-minute Tims and things like that. It'd be brilliant to see. That this in the charts. That would be my ultimate aim, kind of thing. And I'm meeting with a few guys over the summer to discuss certain things. But guys, if you like the podcast, remember we are on this is the last show, obviously, of the season, but we'll be back next season. You can follow us on the socials. We are Celtic FC Appreciation on Facebook, YouTube and Instagram, and we are available to download on Spotify, Apple Podcasts and other good podcast apps. Just search Celtic FC Appreciation Show, click subscribe and follow, and if you can, it means a lot. I know it doesn't seem that, but it means a lot if you leave us a review, tell us what you think of the show. If you don't like it, tell us what we can do better. I'm very open to criticism. I've always have been. So listen, if you think we're doing well, leave us a comment. If you think we're doing rubbish, leave us a comment anyway. But listen, thanks to all the guys that's commented through the 11 shows. Thanks to all the interviews that we've had so far, and thanks to you, Paul. As I say, I'll be in touch, mate, and we'll get stuff sorted over the summer.
Perfect. Thanks, everybody.